The boy whose dreams came true. Joseph was the youngest in his family. His father Jacob treated him differently than his older brothers by giving him special attention and gifts. The brothers were very jealous of him because they knew Joseph was their father's favorite. When Joseph was still young, God gave him a dream. He dreamed that one day his whole family would bow down to him, as people bow down to mighty rulers. When he told his brothers about the dream, they said, "Do you really think you are going to rule over us?" And they hated him even more. One day, Joseph was sent to check on his brothers as they were working. When they saw him coming, they said, "Let's get rid of the boy dreamer once and for all." They threw him into a dried-up well and began to leave. Then they saw a bunch of traders coming and decided to sell Joseph as a slave. When Joseph got to Egypt, he was bought from a powerful man named Potiphar. God was with Joseph, and Potiphar noticed that Joseph was successful in everything he did. Because Joseph always did his best and worked hard, Potiphar put Joseph in charge of everything he owned. However, when Potiphar's wife accused Joseph of doing something he had not done, Potiphar threw Joseph in prison. 2 years later, the Egyptian king, who was called Pharaoh, had a strange and frightening dream, which he didn't understand. One of Pharaoh's servants told him about an imprisoned slave who could tell people what their dreams meant. Joseph was brought to the palace immediately. Once again, God gave Joseph the wisdom to understand dreams. "There were 7 fat cows and 7 full grains in your dream," said Joseph. "So there will be 7 years of plenty of food in Egypt." Then came 7 skinny cows and 7 thin heads of grain. "So there will be 7 years of famine after that." Joseph advised Pharaoh to store up some food from the good years to eat when the bad years would come. Pharaoh liked Joseph's idea so much that he put Joseph in charge of storing food during the 7 good years. After a while, when the famine had begun, Joseph's 10 older brothers came to buy food too. They didn't recognize Joseph, and they bowed down to him just like Joseph had seen them do in his dream when he was a boy. Joseph was surprised to see them and pretended he didn't know who they were. To find out if they were still as mean as before or if they were sorry for what they had done to him, he said, "If you are good people and not spies, bring your youngest brother here too." On their return, they brought their youngest brother Benjamin. When they all bowed down to him again, Joseph couldn't contain himself any longer. "I am your brother Joseph," he cried and hugged each of them. "You sold me as a slave," Joseph continued, "but God made me second in command." Joseph forgave his brothers for what they had done, and he said, "You wanted to harm me, but God turned it into a good thing. He sent me here to save all of our lives." The end.